Libra, welcome to your week ahead astrology forecast by Astrology Motivation from Born Without Boundaries. In these videos, I review the major planetary aspects and transits, and I let you know how they're going to be impacting your natal sun, through which aspects they're all forming to your natal sun. And then I'll explain what this means for your bottom line, like how it translates into your real life. To understand this video and to get use of it, all you need to know is your birth date, because I will translate everything else for you. We're going to start out really broad with the big stuff, the stuff that's in the current charts. And this is for the week of August 22nd through the 28th of 2023. I've got all my notes written down and ready to go for you guys. And then we're going to whittle things down into Libra specific information. And then we're going to go into the 3 decans of Libra. Now, a decan isn't a place in the sky, something that actually exists. It's a demarcation that astrologers use to mark groups of 10 degrees. And there are 3 groups of 10 degrees because there's a total of 30 degrees in every zodiac sign. And the reason why we break things down into groups of 10 degrees is because really it's that 10-degree point where an aspect is either being formed or not. If it's over or way under, the aspect is not strong. So we have up to 10 degrees, and anything beyond that, it's not really forming that aspect. The energy really isn't there. So by breaking things down into those groups, I can tell based on your birth date and estimated birth date, where your natal sun is and what aspects are forming to your natal sun. I choose the sun sign because it really colors everything in your consciousness. And so that's where I think I can get the most information to you. So let's get into it, shall we? So once again, this is for August 22nd to the 28th of 2023. Big stuff, right? Well, 2 really big things, 3 really big things. On the 23rd, the sun is going to move into Virgo. So Virgo season officially begins on August 23rd this year. Sun in Virgo is very different energy than Sun in Leo. Sun in Leo is happy to shine. Sun in Virgo, it is more focused on the process and procedure, and that is how it shines. It shines by doing. It shines by like putting things into order and being resourceful and being economic. It's not about the show, it's about the how-to in Virgo season. And it's also about the knowing and understanding. Virgo is a very education-based, rule-abiding energy. So it's really interesting that as the sun moves into Virgo, it is going to be in opposition to Saturn. The opposition to Saturn is a really potent opposition because it highlights feeling repressed or being repressive. And so one can hope that as the sun moves into Virgo, where it is all about the doing and the procedure, and in opposition to Saturn, where maybe the current procedures or the current situations that are happening with rules, laws, regulations, they could be challenged now. They could be brought to light. They could be seen as, well, what is problematic and what is too fantastical? What doesn't actually make literal and practical sense? One could only hope. But sun opposite Saturn is usually makes you feel really oppressive. So when, especially in the first few days of this week, when that aspect is really gearing up, there is an energy of feeling this, it all hitting you at once, how restricted you are, how held down you are. It really can incite an energy of discouragement in a way. We also have Mercury going retrograde on the 23rd. There you go. So I'm sure you felt it. The shadow period was already building. My phone has been freezing all week. There's just a lot of stuff that would already be starting because Mercury was in shadow period and it was slowing down. You know, it just wasn't as fluent. Information wasn't coming. Maybe you were finding things hard to understand or communicate. Now it is officially in retrograde, moving backwards, so it will become more internal. We will be more internal with our dialogues. We'll be more internal with our information seeking, taking what we already have and reviewing it for quality, or did we really see all the things that we needed to see? This could be very helpful as long as we give ourselves time and don't try to rush things. You really shouldn't rush things during a Mercury retrograde, and you really shouldn't sign any important documentation, paperwork, or anything like that, though important things can be discovered during a Mercury retrograde. And then we have another big transit, and that is Mars. Mars is transiting into Libra, which directly impacts you guys because it's coming home into your home. The thing is, Mars is basically the opposite energy of Libra because Mars rules Aries, which is your diametric opposite on the zodiac wheel. So Mars is in detriment in Libra. It doesn't get a lot done, which, think of everything around you now. Zoom out. Venus is in retrograde. That's your ruling dignitary. She's in retrograde till September 4th. Mercury is going into retrograde on the 23rd, and that will last through mid-September, but its shadow period will last all the way through to the beginning of October. Jupiter is going to go into retrograde by September 3rd, and Uranus goes in retrograde on the 28th of September. That means that almost every single planet except for Mars is going retrograde, but Mars is entering Libra where it's at its detriment. Mars in Libra is very diplomatic, actually. It takes action. It's almost like it tries to do two things at once, which will slow it down. It's very cumbersome. It doesn't like to necessarily decide where I want to take the action. It likes to try them both. So once again, for exploration, experimentation, and knowledge seeking, this is a fabulous energy. But if you want to get things done, you're going to have to wait till at least mid-October when both Mercury and Venus are clear out of their shadow periods and at least our inner planets are moving direct again. We're also then going to start to see around October, November, some of the larger planets start to come out of retrograde like Pluto, etc. So we'll start to see things pick up again in the fall, interestingly enough. I say that because the fall is the beginning of Libra season. So that could be good news for you guys where things start to feel like the momentum is coming back online during your season. But also I say that because fall is sort of, in terms of the seasons, at least in the northern hemisphere, it's when we start to kick back and the nights start to get shorter. The nights start to get longer, the days start to get shorter, and we're not as active. We're more in holiday season starting in October. But it's just interesting where that will start to kick things into high gear, and we could be looking for some pretty pleasant energy come October, November of this year. So just an FYI. Then we have Venus in retrograde. She is your ruling dignitary, so we'll go more into talking about what she's doing this week. But all this week, the big aspect that she's forming is a square to Jupiter, which is a very decadent and indulgent energy. And especially as things start to slow down, we could either become very aware of how we've indulged and how we've been overcompensated with sensual pleasures to compensate for what has been frustrating us and upsetting us outside of things, or we could be doing that now. There is excess here, but we could also be exposing excess as well. We have another very challenging aspect, which is both Mars and Mercury are in opposition to Neptune all week long. This is troublesome because it means that the actions that we're taking or the plans that we're making could be fogged by delusion or based on things that aren't true, things that are intentionally deceptive. So that could be very challenging energy, and it's another thing that's really going to slow Mars down. It'll make Mars kind of be more reactive to its own inadequacies than it is to its capabilities and what it's good at. So we could be trying to do things or engage in things that really we shouldn't even care about because it's not even prudent. But at the same time, Neptune in opposition is very, very distracting energy. It's very disruptive in that it kind of brain fogs you, especially with Mercury there. Mercury opposite Neptune is very confused energy. It's very delusional energy. It's very distracted energy at the least. Can it be creative? Sure, but because it's opposition, even in its most creative state, it will drive you to the point of distraction. So this is all energy that's insisting that we slow down and we be more discerning because it's going to be more difficult, and all of us will be a little bit more vulnerable to buying into crap as if it was gold. Just an FYI. Okay, on the 22nd, I mark, so that's today if you're watching it when I upload this video. On the 22nd, the moon is actually in Scorpio, which means it's going to be in direct opposition to Jupiter. The fact that that is true means it's also going to be square to Venus. What does that mean? That there's challenges with the indulgences or overindulgences that we've been doing and we've been having and we've been getting ourselves into. There could also be a sort of a light that's brought to it and an expose that's on it, which could bring down even harsher rules and restrictions, making us feel more repressed. Like, you know, it's almost like the first week of January after holiday season, where you know you've gained 10 pounds because you've been eating everything on the Christmas or Kwanzaa or Hanukkah table. You've just been sucking it all in. You've been enjoying yourself, right? But at the same time, now it feels super restrictive because you've been so loosey-goosey for so long. And that could really be what this slowing down period is, when the recession really hits us all and we really start to feel just how bad things have gotten. That could come into consciousness this week and really cause a lot of disruption, to say the least. So Libra, let's get into Libra specific energy. So what do I look for that? Well, I look for what's happening in Libra, your zodiac sign, and then I also look for what's going on with your ruling dignitary, because she is sort of the traveling emissary of your energy. So your ruling dignitary is Venus. In Libra, we have two things happening this week. One, the South Node, which is where it will remain for the next 18 months. The South Node is going to be at 26 degrees Libra. It's going to stay there. But it means that it is conjunct to the natal suns of those of you in the third decan, or those of you born toward the end of Libra season, especially those of you born on the Scorpio cusp. FYI, and we'll get more into what that means or how that's going to impact you later. We also have, by the 28th, which is at the very end of this week, Mars entering Libra. So Mars will then, at the end of this week, conjunct the natal suns of those of you in the beginning of Libra season, Libra ones. And we'll talk more about what that means when we get into the decans. What is happening with Venus? Well, Venus is in Leo, and she is in retrograde, and she will remain in retrograde until September 4th. So she is in retrograde, and she will move in Leo in retrograde from Leo 15 degrees to Leo 12 degrees. So she's right there in the second decan of Leo, which means that she is sextile to the natal suns of those of you Librans in the second decan. So those of you born mid-Libra season, and we'll discuss that a little bit more as well. She is square to Jupiter, which is a very indulgent, self-satisfying, sensual overload kind of energy. She is also sesquisquare, I call it a sesquisquare because I cut it down that way. I abbreviate it. I don't even know if it's official, but that's what I call it. She's within about 150 degrees of Neptune, which can be a strenuous energy. It can be stressful and create like almost make you realize how you're being impacted, but not feel like you can have anything to do about it. So Venus in any kind of challenging aspect to Neptune is how you've over fantasized and maybe given credit where it wasn't due. It's just kind of how it breaks down. Then we have Venus semi-square to Mars. Venus semi-square to Mars is even bigger than Venus and Mars because they do represent the divine masculine and divine feminine energy. And the fact that they are semi-square means that they are irritating each other, that there's a challenge that's going on between divine feminine and masculine energy. They are not balanced. They are sort of like rubbing each other the wrong way. And that's really interesting how that's coming out. And that will exist through the 26th of this week. We also have a trine to Chiron, which will exist through the 26th of this week. And so since they are both in sync, there is a sense of, you know, how has this disruption between the divine masculine and feminine taught us about how we're hurting ourselves, and how have we been inspired to heal now that we have been kind of incited or inspired to heal through all this craziness that's been going on and conflicting between the two. And those kind of themes will come up in your life and I think globally. All right, let's break everything down into the decans. If you know that your natal sun, because you have your natal chart. If you have your natal chart, you'll know this. If you want to get your natal chart, it's free. You can get them on so many different websites. Simply just search free natal or free birth chart. And you'll need your birth date, time, and place. You need all of those 3 pieces of information. And once you get it, so come prepared, because once you get it, it's easy to input in these websites, and then they just spit out the information for you in seconds. But sometimes what's problematic is the getting of the information, the gathering it. In the States, it's a little bit easier because we include all that information on our birth certificates. But other countries don't, I've been informed, don't do that. So you might have to ask a relative, especially your mom. She kind of usually remembers the time you were born. Just an FYI. Because she was there. We have, but you're right. If those of you who were adopted and stuff, that information may be lost. So we might just have to estimate. Let's get into Libra ones. So if you know that your natal sun is between 0 and 9 degrees Libra, you are a Libra 1 because your natal sun is in the first 10 degrees of Libra. This usually correlates to September Librans. So those of you born on the Virgo cusp, anybody born, say, September 22nd through maybe October 1st, maybe September 21st through October 1st. So it's when Libra season begins right up until the end of September. Perhaps some years it also will go into it will also go into October 1st as well. So what does this mean? On the 28th, you guys, especially those of you on the Virgo cusp, are going to be conjunct Mars. And those of you on the Virgo cusp, so those of you born, say, the 21st, 22nd, 23rd of September, you are already going to feel all week long the conjunction to Mars. And what is that feeling? More energy, more vitality, more sex drive, more forthrightness, not afraid to fight. It doesn't usually make you pop offish so much as it makes you more bold in the actions that you take and really ready to take action. So that's how it could be inspiring you this week. It's be very helpful energy. But you also have that, if you're at the cusp, you have that opposition to Neptune too. And you've been dealing with that for a while, but when it's exacerbated when there's another energy that comes and lumps itself on top of it. And this time it's Mars. So it could be that you have to confront some sort of confusion or some sort of, you may be tempted to take action on things that don't really deserve your attention. So it's very, very important this week for you guys to get an outside opinion as to, is this real? Is this really as important as I'm paying? Am I aiming in the right direction? Am I making plans for the right things? All of those things you might want to get some counsel on. It could be very easy for you to try to feel inadequate and to feel like you have to overcompensate to catch up. So definitely watch out. That should be a red flag if you're doing something to overcompensate. Just an FYI. Your natal suns have a long-term trine to Pluto, which means they are comfortable with change. They are comfortable with that taboo. There is an energy of you really also understanding the things that are more taboo, darker, and more psychic about you. You will have broader insights into people's behavior than you've ever had before over these next couple of years. FYI. We also have quincunx to Saturn, which can be very disruptive, especially since Saturn is being activated this week by that opposition to the sun. So really sort of a spur in your side when it comes to rules, laws, and restrictions or obligations that you've had that are really starting to scare or frustrate you. You could start to feel that stimulus even more now because the sun is in opposition to Saturn. Though all of those things would become more to the forefront right now. And then you guys are in a semi-square by the 26th or through the 26th. You got your natal suns are semi-square to Venus. So what does that mean? That you're kind of right in the thick of the energy of Venus and Mars right now, and the tumultuousness between divine masculine and divine feminine energy. This could cause some friction in your relationships, but it could also cause friction in your personality. A little bit of disruption when it comes to being assertive or allowing, right? Being productive or being sort of analytical and understanding. So there could be some conflict there. There could be juxtapositions between your roles when it comes to your current relationship, or even just having friction in general when it comes to how you feel about your self-worth or value. And definitely, since we have Venus all week long square to Jupiter, I think it's actually I think it's more than a week long. No, because Venus moves pretty fast. But anyway, I digress. I apologize. But especially because of her square to Jupiter, this could be a sense of really starting to feel very clearly where you have overindulged, and to start seeing that come into conflict, it being brought to light. You're starting to realize how it's, maybe I don't look the way that I want to look because of my overindulgences. Maybe I can't spend what I want to spend because of my overindulgences. Or you're having these issues in your relationship. So those themes can really come up for you right now. Just an FYI. Then we have Libra 2s. So if you know that your natal sun is between 10 and 19 degrees Libra, you are Libra 2s. This usually correlates to birthdays between, I say, October 2nd and the 11th. Those would be definite Libra 2s. Your natal suns are sextile to Venus in retrograde. So there could be beautiful opportunities that are opening up for you guys right now because of whatever she's drudging up, digging up, or reviewing during her retrograde. Starting to learn new things, understand new things, really come into yourself and feel really more beautiful and want more attention and be deserving of it. This is a great time for you to change your look or take action on changing your looks or even your aesthetics around you. Really get a grapple on maybe some financial advancements can happen to you right now. This is really beautiful energy, though it will come more slowly and more subtly because she's in retrograde. It could be that you find money by realizing that you don't have to spend something on a bill anymore, or that you've been overspending, maybe because you have 2 memberships to something and so you can cut one out. So it could very well be things like that start to play up and you start to discover more opportunities from this Venus retrograde. You have a quincunx to Jupiter, which means there could be this sense of expansion and growth, and it will frustrate you, maybe inspire you to look for ways to break out of the mold or want to break out of the mold. The only thing with a quincunx is it can kind of maybe make you want to move too fast when you can't right now. So just an FYI with that, slow and steady really will win the race right now. And then that opposition between your natal sun and Chiron is just really kind of bringing your attention to struggles and hardship and ways in which you're being challenged, which can be very frustrating. An opposition to Chiron can make you feel lesser than. It can make you feel like you aren't valuable or don't have the value that you would like, or that other people don't appreciate you. It doesn't mean that that's real, but you could find a lot of obstructions to your life because of that feeling or that perspective. Just an FYI, this will also reveal those parts of your life where you need the most work and you need the most help. And if you ask for it, it could actually really strengthen you over the next year or so. Let's go on to Libra 3s. So if you know that your natal sun is between 20 and 29 degrees Libra, you are Libra 3s because your sun is in the 3rd decan of Libra. This usually correlates between October birthdays, between October 12th and 22nd. So right up to that Scorpio cusp, which would be the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. If you're a October 23rd Libra, then 100%. That would be you too. Your natal suns are the ones they're conjunct to the south node, which means they're opposite the north node. So finding and claiming your independence and finding who you are outside of your relationships is going to be a major theme for this next 6 months for you guys. And it will challenge you a great deal. It could even tip the scales when it comes to whatever current relationship you're in. FYI, you have a long-term square to Pluto. This will last for a couple of years. This square to Pluto will make your natal suns extra formidable to the point where people won't trust you. Because it could get that bad where people are like, yeah, this bitch just walked through the door to take over. And that may not be how you felt. But you do have a tendency when your sun is square to Pluto to be more forthright and to be more aggressive and to be more definite about what you want. That can intimidate the shit out of people. So when you use this energy to make you relentless, it's actually very productive energy. But if you use it to be ruthless and you really do stop caring about how you treat other people, that is going to scar your reputation, and it could also scar your dharma. So you could be dealing with some of that, because it's got to do with Pluto. So you could be dealing with some of that shit in your next life, right? And just imagine all the things in your life where you're like, why are things so hard for me? I've never even done this to anybody. You know, there's a sense of that's because your soul had shit to make up for in the past life. And you want to get rid of as much as that crap now, so you don't have to, you have a peaceful next life. You know, if you believe reincarnation, I do. And so there's that sense of you don't want to build up that bad juju, right? So use it relentlessly for the next couple of years. You will take hit after hit and keep going with that square to Pluto. But at the same time, it might be off-putting to others because it's too intense. And I'm not saying don't be yourself. I'm just saying be aware of how you impact others, because you'll have a superpower impact on people with that kind of square to Pluto. This week, your natal suns are sextile to the current sun. How is that going to help you? You're going to be noticed. You're going to shine. You're going to be confident, and there's extra courage and bravery when it comes to who you are and especially how you feel about yourself. So this can be very productive energy and open up a lot of doors for you. There's a long-term quincunx between your natal suns and Uranus, as well as your natal suns in Neptune. So there's sort of disruptive energy here with new stuff. Maybe learning new stuff, maybe being confused with new stuff, maybe any kind of engineering or ingenuity here. There's just an energy of it being a little bit difficult, not being impossible, but it being a little bit difficult, and maybe surprisingly so. Maybe even keeping your mind focused has been difficult, and that's Neptune. So that'll be for quite a few years, because Neptune doesn't move fast. Uranus, I think, will pass in a couple of years. It's quincunx to most of you guys, but just get ready for the long haul, because it's almost a mindset that you're going to have to learn to live within. FYI. But that's long term. This week, it's the sextile to the sun that's going to dominate, and that could be really productive and helpful energy, just making you feel confident and good about yourself. Maybe even some good news and extra optimism. We love that stuff. So, Libra, you let me know in the comments below. How is this energy impacting you? Please don't forget to like and share this video if you love it. And then come on over to subscribe to this channel. Please don't forget that, so we can build over here. And then come on over to Born Without Boundaries Tarot for your week ahead tarot card reading. And I will see you guys in the videos. Bye, guys.